Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hawks-centric podcast, hosted by yours truly, David Lee, aka D Lee for three. The baby Hawks take the court in a little bit under 24 hours, and I'm really excited to bring some OGs on. We're going to talk through some Skyhawk stuff, some real Hawks sickos, pillars of the Hawks community. Two guys from the ATL and 29 podcast, Tyler and Kevin. Appreciate you guys taking the time. I'm looking forward to diving into all these guys.
Thanks for having us, David. And
Yeah.
I had Kevin come on the show. You guys talking to each other because Kevin's great, bro. Like the questions like Kevin asks, you see why he does this for a living. But like he has some of the best questions around. So
No. Then tell the truth, because David sent us like a run of show with like this very well organized outline for what he wants. I just queued Glenn and Tyler up with a time and then just fire off the cuff, and they've got to they have to kind of anticipate what I'm asking, because I don't give them any prep work.
That's somewhat true, but I mean the discussions lead somewhere typically. So, but I'm glad you have us both on, David.
Of course. And if you all any listeners aren't familiar with the ATL and 29 podcast, definitely recommend you tap in with these guys over there. Glenn Willis is the other co-host for them. And so, yeah, we'll dive right into Summer League. I think I've been watching the games from today. The New Orleans game looked pretty good from the Hawks' perspective. Derek Quin had some defensive concerns that I was very excited to see translate to the NBA. Tyler had a tweet about it. But the thing about Summer League is always, we want to temper reactions. Okay, this isn't the best situation for most guys. It's typically guys that are gunners, like Alester Quinones. This is his element. Like he's going to go out there and he's going to have 28 points on 14 shots because this is his type of game. This is his type of basketball. So I always want to give that preface before we talk about some guys, because this year's Summer League, there's a lot of really good defensive teams. Like Minnesota really made it tough for New Orleans. The Kings are having a really good game right now. But this Hawks roster is really interesting. And I think in the rundown I sent, there was I generally want to talk about like guys' different perceptions coming in, right? And to me, there really isn't a guy who has more writing on Summer League in terms of his translation to his role for the Hawks than Kobe Bufkin. And just because we haven't seen him for, I think maybe 20 or so games, 28 games throughout his first two seasons due to injury. And so I'm curious where you guys have your expectations for him coming in the Summer League. So if we could start with you, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean it's just a matter of him sort of synthesizing it to me, because I feel like there were times in College Park where he was an unbelievable offensive player for like 2-3 weeks at a time. And he was effectively carrying a bad offense. Like he would be playing in some of these lineups that just didn't have a whole lot of good offensive players. This wouldn't have been last year. This would have been 23-24 season.
Right.
But yeah, there were a lot of times where he was out there and it was just like, go get some points for us, Kobe. The floor isn't going to be particularly well spaced, but we're just going to play defense and let you kind of run the show on offense. And he still did it. And it was really impressive, some of the runs that he had offensively in the G League. And then, he in the same season again, 23-24, there were moments where the Hawks called him up, and for 2-3 weeks, he looked like a real NBA impact defender.
Yep.
And now it's just consistency. And so, it's whatever it is, it's really still just Summer League, because we know enough about him that really a Summer League shouldn't change your opinion one way or the other, because Summer League is, I'll probably say this 3 or 4 times tonight because I tend to repeat myself, but it's just kind of organized chaos. I don't know that it's the greatest barometer, but it is still fun. You get basketball in July, you get to see these guys that you don't always get to see all the time. But I'm not going to put, unless there's like all of a sudden some ridiculous bad habits or something, I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into it, but I'm just excited to see it and see what it looks like. And, I'll put more stock in what happens in a more organized setting, like, the second preseason game or something like that. This is just Summer League.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Kevin. Like, I'm not what Kobe does, like if he plays well or poorly, is more for the fans or like Twitter people or BlueSky people just to be like, oh, Kobe is this or Kobe is that. The work Kobe is putting in is what he's doing in the gym and at the practice facility, and what he's doing with the trainers and how they're evaluating him as a player on a day-to-day operation. That's more important than what he's going to do these next couple of games. Because, like, honestly, I mean, I know he wasn't impressive when he played in the regular season. It felt like pretty clearly he was limited physically in a way that kind of made it so that either he's making his jump shots or he can't play. So it was disheartening that he had to have the shoulder surgery and miss another year after his rookie year where he was hurt all the time. But like, he's not going to face a better competition in a more NBA setting than what he did in preseason against OKC Thunder. Like, I know it's preseason. That was a real OKC Thunder lineup he went up against, and he put up 37 and like step back, 80s, running the show, absorbing the pressure that OKC defenders constantly put on ball handlers and initiating the offense. Like, that was so impressive. I'm not worried about what he does in summer league. Like, to me, it's whatever. If he dominates, if he doesn't, I don't care. He showed me something that game. I understand it's I understand it's a preseason game, but he showed me something combined with what he did to G League his rookie year and what he showed me in his rookie season when he was able to play as primarily as a point of attack defender, but also as a weak side rim protector, sort of. Like, I think he's good. Like, I think the NBA knows he's good because there's constant like rumors that teams are trying to poach Kobe Bufkin away from the Hawks, and the Hawks aren't biting. So like, that should really tell you, like, the Hawks know they have something in Kobe. I don't know what it is. We don't know what the totality of it is. Is he a starter in this league? Is he an all-star caliber player? Is he merely just a good seventh, eighth man, which every team, if you're trying to win a title, needs good quality seventh, eighth men, right? I don't know that level, but I do know he's an NBA rotation. I feel like he's an NBA rotation player if he's healthy. The health is the bigger issue. And so, like, I'm happy that he's playing in the summer league. I think it's going to be good reps for him because he just needs to play more with whistles and a television. But like, this isn't an AJ Griffin situation where the Hawks were like, we got to get off of this. We don't want him here. They clearly like him. Clearly. And so, like, that's where I'm like, the organization has more information than we do as fans. They just do. We're not there at the practice facility. I have no idea what his training habits are. All I can base what I'm saying on is the few games that I've seen him play, this game in particular, and like, just the fact that he's still on the team. Like, they could have traded him they might have been able to get a good asset for him, honestly, based on what we're hearing, at least from the other, from rumored sources or whatever. Like, it feels like teams kind of know he's good, but because he hasn't played, like, they're trying to lowball, like they're trying to get an asset from the Hawks for free, and the Hawks aren't biting. So I'm like, that tells me more than what he's going to do in summer league. Because summer league, anybody can have a bad summer league. Like, I mean, everybody brings up Trae Young summer league. Kobe's an older player, so you expect him to play better. But like, I know it's his third year, but like, it's such a different context of what NBA basketball is. I'm not too worried.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, I don't necessarily think he needs to dominate, but it would be nice for him to like not be bad. Like, I don't know if you all have had any chance to watch Utah's summer league, but Jalen Hood-Schifino is not an NBA player, and it's very evident from the way that he's playing in this sort of context. But then again, he's also a guy who wasn't making an impact within his first 2 years in the limited minutes he got. So I think all three of us are I think Hawks fans in general are really frustrated with Kobe Bufkin, and it's led to some somewhat overreactive takes about like what he could be or what he can't be. And I think it's really nice that we ended up getting Dyson, because in some ways Bufkin was supposed to be the Dyson, right? So now you have optionality, shout out Onsi, but you have the optionality to have those other guys in the backcourt that can play on or off of Trey. And it would be really nice to introduce Kobe to that dynamic, because even if you look at Kennard and you look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you look at V. Krejci, you look at Dyson Daniels, Kobe has the most natural shot creation ability. He has the deceleration, he has the handle. So it would be a really interesting dynamic to introduce, because that's something that we don't currently have all coming off the bench. And that's why I do think it's important that he builds some more equity towards getting to that point, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in summer league. And honestly, I just want to see him healthy and get those reps too. Now I think, of course, the next guy would be Asa Newell, our 23rd overall draft pick. I think that it's going to be helpful for him that he has a Lamont Butler, a Bufkin, and a Djurisic to play off of, because I think that, and a lot of people's arguments about the way he performed at Georgia was the guard context, the archaic offense, the spacing. What are you all expecting from him going in to summer league? And do you think that, I'm curious how they'll deploy him too, because they don't really have a true big on the roster. Like Jake Stevens is like the closest thing, but he's more of a stretch five. So where do you think they'll end up deploying him?
I mean, for me, I think he's going to be the starting center. I think they have, power forwards that they want out there to rebound with him. I think that's, I think we're going to be very granular today with some of these players, but I think really it's more about the big picture, which is that they put together a very veteran lineup around him. There are quite a few guys in this roster that have NBA experience. I think, with guys like Jack McVay and Jacob Toppin, they're going to have some forwards out there that can bang and get some rebounds for him a little bit. But I think they want him to have the space to, do things as a roller and to make decisions in the short roll. So I think, I think they've really tried to put together a veteran roster that can play adult basketball, so that he has the functional space so that they can evaluate and they can use this as a training experience for him. So I think he's just going to be the starting center, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. It's going to be and it feels like this roster, just in general, they're trying to insulate Asa into the role that if he were to play next season on the big club, is the role that he'd be in, which is the energy big, the get up and down the floor big, and particularly on defense, just in particular, the center that plays up the floor in particular. Like, I think this is something we've talked about a couple times. I know we talked about it plenty on 18 on 29. Like, the Hawks bigs play up the floor. And so I think I just think in general they want him to get more comfortable in that role, which is what he did at the youth levels, but not necessarily what he did at Georgia. Georgia was a more traditional, by the book, 1985 college basketball type of basketball. It was a tough watch for me, the few games I saw, but like, he's not going to be in that role. Like, they're not going to be posting him up, 15 feet from the rim and telling him to go make magic happen. Like, that's not happening. Yeah, that's not going to be his role in the NBA. That's not what they're going to ask him to do. I do think you're going to probably see him try to attack closeouts, try to attack at different angles, and also be the primary roller for this team, because there's a lot of size and shooting particularly for a summer league team. Like, it's a lot of size. Like, Jack McVay is a big dude, and he's a good shooter at the professional level. And so, and it feels like there's like a couple Jack McVay types on this team right here. So I think we kind of have an idea, like, they want to space this floor out, and they want to see Asa dunk the ball 15, 20 times in summer league. So that's really it. So it's if you're if you want to see more from him, I don't think they're going to put that on the plate. I don't think they're going to ask him to initiate offense or anything like that. I just think it's going to be the by the book, play finishing type of role, energy big, offensive rebounds, and this is the environment that type of big does pretty well here. So just if you want like a what more or less what John Collins did in his summer league setting, I think they're trying to set up for what Asa as well, because I think that's the archetype of player that we make jokes. They have missed that type of play finishing,
Sure.
physical at the rim play finishing consistently um, from their bigs. Like Onyeka is more of he's a more below the rim finisher, even though he's an elite finisher. He's more below the rim finisher. Capella's hands just completely like left him a couple years ago, and it became really hard to watch sometimes. So, like they've missed this type of player. They don't, and like Jalen, we'll save him for another day, his offensive game, but like that's not his game. Like,
Yeah.
so this is an archetype of player that the Hawks have not had since John Collins left, and I do think for Trey in particular, he needs this type. Like he needs optionality, as Auntie would say. Like he needs his pick and poppers, and he also needs his hard rollers, not just and his in betweeners. Like he needs it all. Like just to mix and match depending on who you're playing. So I just think Asa is going to fill a particular niche for this team. And I can feel why some fans might feel a certain way. Why would they go in this route? But I just think production will be there with him if he does play. And like I think we're going to see like a preview of what he could provide for the Hawks in the upcoming season.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think when I went back and watched more of his games after we drafted him, he doesn't feel like a natural screener or a natural roller. And I think that's something that he's going to have to develop because, again, in that context at Georgia, he was popping a lot because the spacing was bad. He was playing with Surreal. And you would often see him just like not make great contact. He didn't roll particularly hard. His pick and roll numbers are one of the worst among the bigs in the class. And that's not without, nuance and context, but that's something that I think I really want to see him work on. The other thing is when he was off the ball defensively, like when he wasn't the main big on the floor, he had some issues with his positioning in terms of, getting out the closeouts or playing passing lanes or even offensive rebounding or defensive rebounding because his offensive rebounding numbers are great. His defensive rebounding numbers are pretty anemic. And when I watched the Arkansas game, Adu Thiero was a monster, but he just he missed him on the box out and Thiero got the game winning put back dunk that ended up leading the free throw. So that happened more times than I expected where he wouldn't play the rebound, he'd play the man. And so I do wonder what he looks like as the only big on the floor. I want to see how he guards in space. I want to see how he embraces rolling. And I think Kobe will be able to find him. Now, Kevin, I know you watched Nikola a good amount. I think you went to a couple of those games too. He's someone that I think Hawks fans are still really interested in. He's someone that I've watched a little bit of. Like the box score isn't great. Turnovers are up and down. The efficiency isn't necessarily there. When he played last year's summer league, he was overextended. I think when Kobe went down, it would have been a lot better for him to have Kobe to play off of. It would have been a lot better for Zach to have Kobe orchestrating as well. Where do you think he needs to be to earn that two-way spot? Because they just signed Jacob Toppin, right? So is that all three two-way spots at this point?
Two.
Okay. Yeah. So if I would say, sorry, go ahead.
No, they said college people were saying Lamont Butler was signed to a two-way, but there's been no NBA sourcing on that, and there's no official the Hawks have not said he signed to any two-way, and there's been no official reporting, so I don't think he's on the two-way. So there's one more open spot for a two-way currently. Combined with there's also 3 open roster spots, and
right.
We'll bring that up later, but there are 3 open roster spots as well. So.
But I think that's important to mention now because if you look at the way that the salaries are setting up, like optionality, it might be something where they just want 14 players to keep optionality. But if they do want 15, they're in a spot now where it's hard for them to even get 3 minimums. So they may put Djurisic on the main roster maybe just because you can go minimum, second round, you get that sort of second round discount, the kind of contract that you signed a second round player to, because he is, he's just starting out. He was completely College Park last year. So they can sign him as a second round draftee and he has the kind of, he doesn't count against the cap, right? When you sign a second.
No,
so
it's just less than the minimum.
It's just a smaller number.
Yeah, it's a smaller number than the minimum. So
there could
be
one way or the other, he kind of fits as a 15th better than a lot of players will. So that could be one thing. But going back to the play style, watching him in College Park, he he's a very gifted passer. Like he's not going to miss any reads. He might get a little bit over ambitious. The turnovers go up, but again, sort of like with Asa, I feel like this is the kind of roster in this summer league that there are, relative to the level of competition typically at a summer league. I think this is a very mature roster with pretty good shooting. I feel like he didn't necessarily have that at times. Like I just don't think when he was playing in College Park, that the rosters, especially at the end of the season, come February, March, like those were some pretty terrible rosters that they had in College Park compared to maybe the year before or earlier in the same season. So I don't feel like he's been on optimal offensive rosters since he's been in the Hawks organization. So I do think that with the right spacing, with a role man like Asa, like this is an opportunity to see what he can do on offense. Defensively, I think they wanted to challenge him last year. They made him guard the ball a lot, which I don't know is necessarily his NBA role, but I think it was just a learning opportunity for him to be more involved, to get more reps than to just play off the ball. So, I think he's going to be an off the ball defender primarily. You're going to try to hide him in certain places if you can, but he was pretty bad like the first couple of months that he was in College Park because he was still rehabbing. He didn't have any athletic burst. It's going to be interesting to see in Summer League because, when he spoke the other day, I asked him about injuries and he's like, yeah, I'm not quite 100% yet. And he mentioned, having a few injuries, over the course of the year since he's been drafted. So he looked really athletic in last Summer League before he got hurt. And I'm not sure he's ever gotten quite back to that level yet. So that's one of the main things I want to see in Summer League is like, where is Nikola's athleticism level at? I think that's something that you can make a real takeaway from, where there are other things that you can't necessarily get out of a Summer League. I think that's something that you can definitely see here for sure.
Yeah, I think when he came in, like his driving ability was like my biggest draw to him.
Yep.
His pre-draft numbers, he drove on like 16% of his possessions and shot 50% on drives. He was at 60% at the rim and the half court on a decent sample size, like 122 shots. Won a very high volume pick and roll ball handler, shot it well off the catch, but where you saw some of the struggles was when the defense sent help on his pick and rolls, shooting off the dribble and then shooting his guarded catch and shoot threes. And I think that, like your points about the athleticism, I don't know if the Hawks can necessarily roster someone who has those types of concerns, because as gifted, like I always come back. Tyler mentioned AJ Griffin, so now he's on like front of mind for me. But as gifted as he was offensively, when you lose a step athletically, there's only so much you can do defensively when you don't have outlier length or size or strength. And Nikola has a neutral wingspan, and he hasn't ever really been like a dominant defender. I do think he has good feel in terms of where to position himself when they jump passing lanes. Tyler, what are you looking for him in Summer League?
I think two things. One, primarily, I would like to see his defense. I want to see how he's evolved over the last year, because, like, to me, physically, he might not have the wingspan, but he has the bulk, and he's not and he's big, right? And I'm like, to me, for him, it's like, how good do you want to be in the NBA? It's like, you're probably not going to be a superstar caliber player if you're a second round draft pick. I think of, and there's some other guys I want to put in this category, but I think a lot of Lou Dort when I consider what I'm talking about here, where Lou, he in high school, he was a top whatever recruit, 5-star, went to Arizona State, had a terrible freshman year. Gets drafted by OKC just purely based on reputation, and like a flip switches in him, and he's like, I am going to be a terrorist. I am going to be a basketball terrorist. I'm going to flop every possession on these screens. I am going to grab. I'm going to hold. I'm going to not let anybody get by me. Similar to his Canadian brother, Dylan Brooks. Like, Dylan Brooks was a star in college. He gets to the NBA. he still wants to be a star on offense to begin, but defensively, he's like, I would rather die than you try to score on me. And like, to me, I'm like, Nico has the physical traits where I'm like, if you want to be a good defender, he can be a good defender. But like, that's a level of aggression that I have not seen from him. Because what does intrigue me, and you brought it up, is his driving. His driving pops off. And like, particularly for a Hawks team that, quite frankly, sucks at driving. Like, it's Trae Young is the only guy who apparently wants to drive to the front of the rim, and like, he's terrible at it. Like, legitimately one of the worst finishers in the NBA. Love Trae. Terrible finisher. He needs to stop with some of these layup packages. Like, but like, he's the only one. Everybody else is like, oh, little contact. I got to give the ball up. Nobody wants to fight through contact on this team. Jalen Johnson doesn't do it, or Jalen does it, and he's like, all right, I got to take the 15 fall away mid-ranger. Reese Shea's just like, I'm not even going to attempt it. Dyson Daniels, it's floater season. Like, none of these guys want to put their shoulder into somebody, knock them back, and then get to the front of the rim to either draw help so that you can swing it to the corner or to make the layup. And so, like, that's something that Nico can do on the offensive end. I don't even care about the shooting right now. But if he's not going to shoot it, he's got to be a good defender. Because he's not a good defender, to your point, David. Hawks do not have the space to roster somebody who's this limited as a shooter if all you're bringing is driving. Because I can get, like, we can find some drivers in the aggregate. Hopefully somebody pops as a driver, one of our three guys, Reese Shea, Dyson, Jalen, they figure something out as a driver.
Right.
If Denny Advia can figure it out, somebody on this Hawks team better freaking learn how to do it. You know, that's where I'm at right now. I'm sorry not to get so heated, but I'm just thinking about it. It's like it's driving me kind of insane how weak, you know, they are as drivers, and like, it's important because that's how you get easy offense. If these guys want to, like, the goal of this offseason was, I want to take pressure off of Trae Young offseason. How do we do it? We get him shooting, we get him size, we get him more point of attack defenders, lengthy guys who can help in a lot of regards. So, like, they've done a lot to help Trae, but like, that last piece of physical downhill driver is not on this team as of today. Can Nico be that guy? He might be able to if he shows me something as a defender. If he shows me something as a defender, I'm open to giving him the 4-year rookie scale contract, whatever, you know, for the less than the league minimum. I'm open to it. But if not, he gonna have to fight for the last two-way spot. The same as the rest of these guys. So that's where I'm at with Nico. But like, the talent, I just say the physical traits and the talent are there to me. They're not the, you know, uber elite wingspan type of guy, but you can be a good defender with a negative wingspan if you're big and you're physical. But like, it's legitimately a mentality to be that type of defender.
He could definitely like learn from the guys you talked about. Tamani Kamara is another guy I would throw in there too. Like, someone who just works really, really hard. And I think this is where it starts. But the next guy we have on the two-way is Jacob Toppin. So he played a little bit with the Skyhawks. He got called up to the big league team. Not necessarily similar to his brother, but he does have a little bit of verticality to him. I think the Hawks still do have a hole at the 3. I don't think he's necessarily someone that I would throw out there for 10, 15 minutes a night. But, you know, maybe if whoever we end up identifying as that guy we're going to have spot the backup 3 minutes, I feel pretty comfortable having him as like if someone goes down, like, I think he could give you some rotation minutes. Where do y'all's thoughts on him? Because I quite honestly haven't watched a lot of him, and, you know, outside of some of the spot minutes with the Skyhawks and with the Hawks.
Toppin, to me, is a clear big 4-5, similar to his brother. Any 3 minutes are out the window. Defensively, he's already a negative. But offensively, I'm not going to lie. I know it was one game. It was the end of the season. That didn't matter. But he showed me a little bit of something on offense. And, like, I think he's worthy of a flyer. He's been consistently dominant in the G League, but that doesn't mean much for his archetype of player, because that his exact, like, physical trait type of player is always going to dominate in the G League. They don't have the bigs to compete. with his type of athleticism and feel for the game on the offensive side of the floor. But I mean, if he's able to knock down consistently open catch and shoot 3-pointers, good. Again, no driver on his team. I was impressed by the drive somewhat. If he can show me, similar to his brother type of player, he's a little smaller, I think. But like overall, I think he's a good two-way bet. I'm not super optimistic about him as like a rotation player, just because his deficiencies defensively are, I think, really severe, honestly. But he's a worthy, like, I think he's a worthy gamble for like another guy. Like, can we teach this guy to really lock in on the defensive side of the floor? Like, but he's got to be a scrapper, and he hasn't shown that yet in his career.
It seems like the Hawks have a type, right? Like, if there's one thing that they've just shown that they were just going to try to get since Ansi took over, it's sort of this athletic 4 type. Like, that's where they're putting their chips. They're trying to do it. I don't think that's Asa necessarily, but I think they maybe envision that for him a year down the road, 2 years down the road. I think it's the role for Toppin right now. I don't think he's a 3, like Tyler said. I think he's sort of like the athletic 4. I think that's where – I think that if you look at what Eli Njai did for Real Madrid last season, that's kind of the role he fit in playing, next to Bruno Fernando and Eddie Tavares. Like, he was kind of the athletic 4 who just, again with Njai, like, I guess I'm cheating and jumping from one to another, but like his strength when you watch him play is just how much ground he covers. Like, he is a mover. Like, if you need him to get from being on the perimeter to being a secondary rim protector, like, he will get there better than 97% of professional basketball players at top levels. Like, he can move. So that just seems to be what they're after. I think Toppin is another swing at it. I suspect that if things go right, he's going to be doing that for College Park next season, mostly not with the Hawks so much. And as far as what he brought to College Park last year, I think they were pretty bad in most of the games that he played. But College Park got really hollowed out by the end of the season. Moge went up to the Hawks. Dominic Barlow went up to the Hawks. Tony Bradley went to the Pacers. So there were just a bunch of defections, and Toppin kind of came in last minute to fill some of that void. But it was like trying to learn on the fly with a bunch of new players. The spacing was terrible. Those last few weeks of the Skyhawks season when Toppin got there, I don't think was a fair audition. So like watching him in that setting, I don't want to speak on that just because I don't think that it was indicative of necessarily what he did. I don't think that was. He's one of the players that I really want to see in this setting because I think a lot more variables are controlled here than what he got at the end of College Park's vacated roster, where I saw way too much of Joey Hauser at center. I kind of said it at the outset. I don't put that much stock into Summer League, but I am going to for Toppin just because I feel like in his particular case, it's actually a better indicator than anything I saw when he was in the Hawks organization last season.
Yeah, I think it's another bet by the Hawks on what they were trying to do with Dominic Barlow. Right. Just in general, I think that's what the reason why they didn't bring Barlow back is because they upgraded him from the 2-way. Like, if Barlow was still on the 2-way, he might still be in the Hawks organization, but because they elevated him, it's just one of those things where it's like this type of player is readily available because we just got Jacob Toppin and you guys are pretty similar physically. I think Barlow's a little bit longer. I think he has a longer wingspan, but functionally, Barlow, we saw Barlow at center. Like, it was bad. And the Hawks were like, well, this is not worth our time. So, like, I think Toppin is another gamble at this type of player because, again, it just, to remind some Hawks fans, like, it's been 2 seasons in a row where the Hawks season has ended because they didn't have anybody behind Jalen Johnson. And so, like, they pretty much made it a primary priority. They were like, look, we can live with Ricochet being the only, like, big, small forward on the team. We can live with that. We can put Dyson there. We can put Neil Keel, Alexander Walker there. Hell, we can put Kobe Bufkin there. Vit Krejci, we will throw Vit Krejci at the 3. It's not great, but we can live there. We cannot live another season where if Jalen got to go down for 2 weeks and we're throwing out there Vit Krejci, Terrence Manns, Sadiq Bey, Ricochet at like 185 pounds, insert DeAndre Hunter archetype basketball player here who's just not athletically gifted enough to play the position at the NBA level. We're not doing that anymore. And for as bad as I said Jacob Toppin defense is, the man can jump. So that means he can at least box out and grab a defensive rebound. Because has it been bad when Jalen gets hurt. Until Mo Gay saved the season. We've talked about that a couple times. But like just in general, they were like, we're not doing this ever again. We're stockpiling our G League roster with this type of player. We're filling up 2 of our 2-way spots with the same archetype of basketball player. One more defensive oriented, one more offensive oriented. I find that a little bit fascinating. They then go out and draft Asa Newell, who's another tweener, but somebody who you can at least envision to play some power forward, every once in a while. They just felt like we clearly cannot survive if this archetype of player is not on our team playing consistently in the NBA. So I think Toppin is just another bet on that player. I'm a little pessimistic about his upside overall just because the defense is really bad, but we'll see. Maybe he becomes an undeniable 3-point shooter. And then it's like, who cares about his defense? So that's where I'm at with Jacob.
Yeah, and just to bolster your point about how important Jalen is, and I mean the Hawks defense was 5 points worse with him out the lineup. And there was nothing they could do defensively with the guys I had on the roster because they just didn't have size. At the very minimum, to your point, they have size. Talking about Eli too. Now, Real Madrid was an awesome team. They won Eurobasket, I'm pretty sure. And so you had a lot of guys.
Not this season? Previous season, I think.
Previous season, okay. But they had, like, Hugo Gonzalez got minimized. He had to play a role. Eli, as athletic as he was, like when I look at his numbers, I was like, oh, the steal percentage, the block percentage is pretty anemic for a guy who has a +5 wingspan at 6'8". Like I wanted a little bit more disruption. Look at the prior season, it was much better. He's at a near 4 block percentage. Season before that, nearly 5 block percentage. Now, of course, the competition level goes down the younger he gets, but he's shown an ability to be disruptive. And at the very minimum, like that's kind of what you need with his sort of archetype. Like Mo Gay has made himself into an actual NBA player without having any sort of offensive additive skills at this point. Like he's, because of his hands could be a little bit iffy and the shooting is inconsistent, it could be tough for him to consistently provide value offensively, but he was just so dominant with taking up space. To your point, Kevin, the ground coverage that Eli has, I think Mo Gay is one of the best in the NBA at that. I'm not saying he's going to be Mo Gay necessarily, but they have already taken this type of player and made him an NBA player. So to me, that's a great process when you could take a flyer on someone like that. If you guys had to point out a swing skill for Eli, like what do you think it would take for him to crack the rotation? Or even just be. Shooting. Yeah,
I think just shooting. Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to have to. I don't think that there's necessarily an opportunity for him to crack the rotation. So right. I want to be careful there. But like, if there is an opportunity, like for him to make the most of it, I think it's going to have to be shooting and just
offensive processing.
Processing all across the board. Like I think he's going to be fine defensive processing. But just it's a different level with new teammates, different structure, different organization. So yeah, I suspect that he's going to be ahead on the defensive processing, but he's still going to have to do it. Like it's just processing on both levels and shooting will get him there. I don't think they'll expect a lot from him offensively. They're just going to, if they somehow had to rely on him this season, they're just going to ask him to do what Mo Gay did on offense last year and just kind of, scratch out what he can from a minimal role with low usage.
I think Lamont Butler is a guy that when I watch Kentucky, because I watch Kentucky a lot for Amari Williams, he was a big that I had on like my eyes on for the Hawks because of his passing ability. He was 7 foot, legit wingspan. Lamont Butler is, for those who watch college basketball, I forgot he led that San Diego State team to the Final Four. And he had some big moments for that team, takes good care of the ball, very disruptive. To me, he seems like a Keaton Wallace type of guy, not necessarily with the same size and the same defensive strategy, if that makes sense. Like Keaton is more like, I'm going to play chest up and I'm going to wall off drives. Lamont has really good hands, great timing. He's a better passer than Keaton, in my opinion. He's not someone that I would like be elated to have to run the backup point guard minutes. Like I think that would be something catastrophic would have had to have happened to the guard room for you to put the ball in Lamont's hands. But to your point, Kevin, for a team like for the Skyhawks, I think he's a really good like G League point guard. Someone's going to take care of the ball and isn't a defensive liability. So I think he could add equity to the system, even if he isn't necessarily contributing for the Hawks. And I do think he'll play a similar role for the Summer League team just because he makes great decisions and because he can hold up defensively. Do y'all have any Lamont thoughts in general? Because I don't know what contract he's on. I would assume maybe could it be a Summer League and then maybe like a exhibition 10?
There was reporting at the beginning that it was a two-way contract, but that, like Tyler said, that was the college reporters. Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things where it's somewhere in the contract that the Hawks can convert it to a two-way contract.
Okay.
As opposed to like it is a two-way contract. I suspect that there's some two-way contract language in it, but it's not necessarily like a guaranteed two-way from the start. So I think there's an opportunity there for him in College Park because Jarkel Joyner is not on this Summer League roster. So he's been in the organization for a couple of years. His role kind of got minimized. I'm not really sure why. I mean, it was kind of a weird season for Jarkel Joyner because at the beginning, kind of Keaton Wallace kind of stole the show. And so they relied on Keaton Wallace more and more. And then by the end of the season, it was Dwight Murray. It really wasn't. They weren't counting on Jarkel for as much. Jarkel's an unbelievable defender, and they kind of wanted him to just kind of be, old steady on offense, kind of running the show. So they need one more point guard, it seems like. And so that would be a reasonable role for Lamont Butler. I think he's got to figure out how to be a better team defender, be more impactful off the ball. I think he kind of stagnates a little bit as a defender when it's not his guy. I think he's got to, have a little bit of a better feel for, how he can help in the main play if it's not his guy and still get back to his guy and try to be disruptive in that way. You mentioned Keaton Wallace. I don't think he's in anywhere near that stratosphere defensively. Is that fair? I don't know. Maybe I need to see more at a higher level to have that kind of feel. But
I think
I wouldn't be shocked if he's not at a Keaton kind of level. What's that?
Yeah, I think he's on a level of disruption that I don't think Keaton is. But there's also like Keaton's frame, the way he moves his feet. I think it's fair to say he's a better defender, but I think Lamont, because of his timing, and he was really productive. There were basically just three guys in the draft that averaged 2 steals per 40 minutes and 6 assists. So I think that's, to me, it's he's managing the turnover economy battle really well. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's productive as a passer, and he steals the ball a lot, as opposed to Keaton, who isn't as disruptive, but he's more of a point of attack guy who's going to get over screens. But he has some turnover issues, and he wasn't as gifted as a passer. So that's kind of the trade off to me. But I would definitely agree.
I think you get more passing. I think that's
yeah.
I haven't seen much of Lamont, so I don't have much to add. But his statistical profile just suggests he's a good defender, good decision maker, like you guys have said. But I'm interested to see how he does, just because he might be somebody who eventually gets a two-way for the Hawks.
Yeah, and I think the guy who's the most fringe guy in the Hawks organization, who's getting the most buzz, is of course Jalen Johnson's brother Kobe. And Kobe, when he's played 4, can't remember if it's 4 or 5. He played a long college career, and throughout the entirety of his college career, he was really disruptive. And this is something that I've become a lot more drawn to. Now, this is Dyson's impact on me, in terms of the way I evaluate prospects. I think the ability to take the ball away from a player and take that offensive possession away from a team is one of the most valuable things in basketball. Like Dyson swung games with his ability to steal the ball, like quite literally with that game winner against Memphis, but also just over the course of a game. If you're averaging 2 steals per game, you're taking 0.96 points per possession away from that half court possession, and you're turning it into 1.3 for the transition opportunity that comes from that steal. So I think just from that alone, like again, like basketball is more than just numbers, but I think that's like Kobe's NBA skill is to be disruptive as a defender. Now, the problem is for me when I watch him is that he's only 6'6", but he stands just like Jalen. And that's a problem because Jalen's upright. He dribbles upright. He drives upright. And he does everything standing straight up. And what that means is that when he puts the ball on the floor, it's easier to be knocked away. Or he doesn't generate as much power or bend when he puts the ball on the floor. And when I watch Kobe, he plays just like his brother, but he's 4 inches shorter. This is really his first season where he shot it well on volume from three. So that's definitely the swing skill for me when I watch him. Do you see an NBA player when you watch any of Kobe? Because I think that his frame is encouraging, but I don't know if he moves enough like a wing, and I don't know if he's consistent enough as a shooter to really carve out not just a role for the Hawks, but like an NBA career. And I think that's kind of where I'm at on him, but I'm curious where you all think.
I mean, personally, I think he's an NBA player. I think he has at least the traits, the physical traits, and the skill level. He was super productive in college, outside of scoring. Mm-hmm. Like he basically did everything else but score the ball.
Yep, he rebounded really well too,
both at USC and UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of his game, but he does need to, like at the next level, he's just going to have to make open catch and shoot 3-pointers if he's going to stick. But I do think he's the type of player you want to gamble on just because of, like, to me, his defense is just that good. And so, like, I'm comfortable with him. I think if you were to ask me who's in the running to get that third two-way spot, I think he's like ahead of everybody else on the roster.
Agreed.
Honestly, I think he's ahead of Jacob Toppin, but they re-signed him, but we'll see how that goes for the rest of the summer league. But like, I think Kobe's going to be on the roster one way or the other. But I don't think he's going to play in the NBA next year. I think they're going to get him in the G League, and they're going to ask him to be a catch and shoot guy primarily. But like he does, like, similar to Jalen, like his passing is actually pretty good too. Like he's an interesting player. He's an interesting player. Unique guy. You just want to see more consistency on the offensive end. But there's something there, and there's something worth like investing in. And I think the Hawks are very lucky that Jalen Johnson is his brother, so that they can play these games with him and get him on get him to not even have a two-way coming to your summer league roster, because he could have been drafted. Honestly, like he had the profile of a guy. There are guys who are drafted who aren't as good as he is. Full stop. But that's less to do with him. And then there's guys with two ways who aren't as good as him. So it's just interesting that the Hawks kept the option open to not give him the two-way, to me, considering his resume is at least of a two-way caliber player. Full stop. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But I'm not worried about what he does in summer. Like, he's probably not going to pop in some outside of his defense. Offensively, it's going to be pretty rough for him, just because even though this team has spacing, if he's on the floor, spacing becomes an issue. That's the type of like non-shooter as a non-big that he is. So we'll see how he looks. I think it's good that they got a real shooting big, just in general, on this roster to help with some of this, like with Kobe Johnson in particular. But he's somebody to track and just to be aware of, because like he could potentially be the big wing defender that the Hawks don't currently have outside of Ricochet. If you think about it. And Jalen in spurts. So just somebody to monitor. I know he's not as tall as his brother, but I think he has a decent wingspan and like good standing reach. So like overall, like he's somebody worth investing in and somebody to look into overall.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find the exact numbers on it, but I believe he has at least a +2 wingspan. Now he's barefoot 6'6", and he plays bigger than that too. I think the defense is real. What do you think about him, Kev?
Tyler's probably seen more of him than I have, but to his point earlier, like once you get past like pick 38 or 30 or 40 in the draft, like there are so many situations where the agents just don't want their players to get drafted and they're trying to direct them to the right opportunity. And it would not be shocking if that was the case here, that, he had Atlanta in mind. I'd rather go there than be drafted number 56 or something like that. So, he has second round talent, and it wouldn't, again, there are definitely some guard opportunities, for the Hawks, like, as a 2 or a 3 with as a perimeter player for the Skyhawks next season. Like, they don't have that kind of depth yet. They're trying to build it up. So it wouldn't be shocking for me to see him there, whether it's on a 2-way or a G League contract, just trying to develop him, because it's just a matter of the offense catching up to the defense. And so you take a swing because of the defense, but then you're trying to play catch up. So that's what the G League is for, is to see if you can get him there.
So and it's one of those things like I brought up earlier, like he might not even be on, like Kevin said, he might not even be on the 2-way. I think that's the Hawks are really using the leverage of the fact that Jalen Johnson is his brother, and like Kobe knows that this is a good environment. Like, this is a good developmental environment for him, because they're if he were to get drafted to a team, he could get lost in the wash. Like, he's the archetype of player that often just falls out of the league just because they don't have the shooting, and teams don't have the time to develop this type of player if they're on a 2-way. And he's not particularly young at the moment. But the Hawks, they have his brother. They're in a great relationship with Jalen right now. He's like the second or third guy at the moment. So, and they want to continue forward with Jalen Johnson. So, I just think they're using that relationship to their advantage, where it's like, we might give you a 2-way depending on if we find somebody else who we need to snag, because we don't have that ability. With you, we're going to take care of you. We took care of your brother. You'll be on the roster, if not this year, next year. Don't worry about it, but we can't, put that in writing or anything. So it's just one of hopefully the investigators didn't hear what I just said, but I don't think it's that illegal. There are worse things going on. Bronny James is making how much money? So yeah, we'll carry on with that.
I think the next guy I want to talk about. Now we're getting to the deep cuts here. No, we talked a lot about there's real shooters on this roster. Adam Flagler was on that OKC roster. He's famous for coming in and getting up 7 threes in 7 minutes and missing all of them, which is an NBA record for most threes missed in the fastest amount of time. But Flagler, for his career in college, he shot 39.5% on 764 threes. He shot 80% or 81% on 288 free throws. He's a legit shooter. Now, he is a little bit smaller. He's on this like a 6'4" in shoes, but in summer league, that's fine. He'll space the floor. I don't think he's a guy that the Hawks would bring in as on a 2-way, but I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be pretty additive in the summer league atmosphere. And the other guys, there's some other real shooters too. Like, I know we talked about Jack McVay. McVay is a guy that I'd actually be interested in contention for the 2-way spot, just because of his size and his shooting. Is McVay on the radar at all for you guys?
I mean, he's just in a whole different category. He's not a young player at all. He's a fully,
right.
He's a full adult. So if you're bringing him in, you're not bringing him in to see, can you get him from point A to point B? Like, he's kind of already at point B. He was a good enough player that when Australia put together their roster for the last season, when Dyson kind of broke out in the Olympics, like, McVay was on that team, and other players like Matisse Thybulle got cut. Like, he's a real player. Like, he can space the floor. He can, bang around down low and get some rebounds like a NBA 3 or an NBA 4 can do. So, you're not trying to develop his body. You're not trying to help him figure out how to shoot. He's going to have a certain cap, but he can do 76% of what Sadiq Bey did for them a couple of seasons ago. Like, he can get up threes. He can be a strong guy. You bring him in for that kind of role. I have no idea what their objectives are, but that's the kind of player you'd be looking at there.
Yeah, he took 8.5 threes per game and shot 36%. So he took a total of 318 last year in the G League. So like, real shooter. But to your point, he's 28 years old.
Wait,
And
I'm talking about
nothing
McVay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So he's a. Go ahead, Tal.
No, just McVay. Like, it is interesting, just in general, just how many older guys are on this summer league team, and like, they're kind of over. Like, McVay's kind of overqualified to be in a summer league roster to me. But I think he's good. He's good. He's good for what the Hawks are needing. Like we talked about with Asa and other guys. I'm not that interested at giving him a two-way though. Like, I think he's kind of a 4A, baseball term. He's a 4A player. He's just for the type of, like, he just has to be an elite shooter for the type of like physical talent that he is, and he's not that. So, like, I think, but he's a good guy to have on your summer league team and even on your G League team if he's up to that. But we'll see. I could totally see him going to a European team and trying to make more of a name for himself, because that's probably what he should do for his career. Adam Flagler is a little more interesting to me, just because he's kind of like, to me, Flagler is a real NBA player. Like, he was on the OKC, like, he was on the Thunder team that won the title. Like, he has a championship. He was good in the G League last year. He's been consistently good throughout his career. It's interesting that, again, he's not even, I don't know what type of contract they have on him, but like, if you want somebody who can make some pull-up threes, he wouldn't be a bad option on a potential roster spot that you can get him for less than we talk about minimum salary. I don't know what his minimum salary would be, since he's a two-way guy. It'd be a little interesting, but like, he's somebody who could fill a roster spot potentially, depending on how he plays in camp and in the summer league. So like, he's probably, of all the guys on the roster, he's probably the guy I'm keyed in the most, because I could totally see the Hawks offering him a real contract just based on what he does, just because they don't have pull-up shooting outside of Trae Young and even Kobe Bufkin. And so like, he would be a third guy, and like, you're probably not getting better value at the minimum for this archetype of player than Flagler. Like, I'm not, maybe there's somebody out there in summer league.
What about Jared Butler?
Jared Butler would be interesting, but like, Flagler to me is just a better shoot, like a more threatening shoot. Butler is like a good player, but to me, what I would want from my Trae Young is out for 2 weeks type of player is, I need somebody who's going to pull up. I need somebody who's going to pull up and fake Trae Young until he makes it, because this team is not built. This team is not built for we're going to station A to station B here. Like a point guard who's not going to turn the ball over and is going to do the right things like Spike Lee. No, they need somebody who's going to take the 35-footer. They need somebody who's going to take the step back 3-pointer. Flagler has that in his game, and he's a volume shooter. And so like, that's why I'm like, for an emergency third point guard, I don't know if the Hawks are going to find better. We'll see how he plays in summer league. We'll see how I'm assuming he's going to be in camp. We'll see how he does there, because I think he has a chance to make the roster. That just based on what he's done in his career. He has unlike the other guys we're talking about, he has a real resume. So I'm interested to see how he does, and if he, if they expand his role a little bit once Kobe Bufkin only plays like 1 or 2 games, because Kobe's not playing 5 games. That'd be stupid. But so somebody's got to take some pull-up jumpers on this team. So like, I think Flagler is like next in line for that type of role, based on what I'm seeing in this roster.
Yeah, he was real productive in college at Baylor. So I think it's not a crazy thing to say at all. I think he's a summer league guy. Like, I was talking about Quinones. Like, I think Flagler will definitely pop if he gets that opportunity. There's a handful of like older guys, older like 4 to 5 year college guys that are like minorly interesting to me. So I'll just sort of give them in the order. Like I think they could be a little bit interesting. Davon Smith, he's from Georgia. He's from Atlanta. He played at Georgia Tech for 3 years. Um, had a really good year at Utah, and then went to play at St. John's and kind of fell off a little bit. But he's a really good passer. His assist percentage is really high, decent steal rate, so he intrigues me. Dwight Murray. Nelly Jr. Joseph has like a really high block rate. Again, I haven't watched these guys, but like he's someone that could be a little bit interesting in terms of defensively. He's just 6'9". Then you've got Dwight Murray Jr. He has a pretty good shooting sample. Javon Johnson and Jack White don't really intrigue me at all. Jack White was a low-minute guy for Duke. Javon Johnson doesn't really have anything that really interests me. But I think they're good filler guys. Like the amount of like I think you saw this in the college game a little bit. I think it's somewhat true for summer league too. You saw a lot of college teams dominate with older guys, and the physicality aspect of summer league can't be understated. Like just from the games today, I mean, Cooper Flagg just shot 5 for 20. And he didn't necessarily have a bad game, but it's just like the physicality levels.
David,
is
the
a whole different level.
Lakers are playing some prison basketball.
Yeah, they are.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like, man, are they throwing some shots at him that I don't know why the refs are letting him get away with it. I guess rookies, Regis Shea had to go through it. I guess Cooper Flagg, he doesn't get the white exception, unfortunately for him.
Yep.
So that was a tough watch for Cooper, but he's a better player than that. Sorry for the aside, but yeah, you're right. Like super physical, so you want older guys, and it's good that they got a couple of Australians, on this team who are older, who aren't going to put up with this nonsense if they try to hard foul Asa Newell, because this is a hungry summer league is a hungry league, man. Like everybody's trying to make it. They trying to make it. And they're all trying to play prison basketball. And so, like, you're going to need some enforcers. So it's probably nice that you got a couple of Australians who are a little older and don't need, not with the gimmicks, just going to set the tone physically in a way to be like, hey, we're not doing this tonight. So, like, it's probably good that they got a couple of old, more seasoned team for particularly Asa, who they're trying to, like, prop up here and trying to get his confidence up for the season, because I could totally see a 5 to 10 game stretch where he's going to have to play due to injuries. Like that's just the nature of the NBA. So it's probably good to get his confidence up now for what to expect in College Park, which is probably where he's going to spend the early part of his season next year.
Can I backtrack for a minute? I just wanted to go back to when we were talking about Flagler. Like I don't think the fact that he was on a 2-way contract last year doesn't really change like his contract status for this year. Like I don't think like the Hawks can go and sign 2 minimum guys and sign him to like a minimum contract. Like it's different for Djurisic, him being like the 2nd round draftee with their rights. Like they could have him as a 2-way player. But again, like you use that term 4A player, that might be what Flagler is. Like he's just not big. Like if he was 6'8", like he'd be like a lock, and he's 6'3", maybe. Yeah. So like
because he's not a real
guys like what's that?
He's not a real like passing guard. Like he's a pure gunner.
He's more of a scoring guard, like a 6'3" scoring guard. And so it's like with guys like McVee and Flagler, like it could be like they're here to sort of prop up Asa, but also just kind of do the tour of Vegas in front of all the eyes that are there in the city, including the European scouts. Like Flagler has the kind of potential where he could go over to Europe and be like the MVP of his National League or Euro League. Like he has that kind of scoring ability where if he's just playing at a slightly different level, it pops, because what he did at the G League, it popped, and it would be slightly more difficult in Europe, but it's not a stretch to see that it pops there. So it could just be that these guys are here because they're good fits for the summer league team, and they just it's a mutually advantageous situation where the Hawks use these players and these players use the roster spots with the Hawks to just showcase themselves. Because Flagler has like this real potential, even though if it may not fit with what the Hawks need in terms of what's left on their roster and what's left with their 2-way contract openings. Like it could just be, hey, you work for us and we'll work for you and we'll try to make it fit. And so like these are real talents that are, older guys that could just be looking for whatever their next opportunity is. And
And
hopefully it works both for both of them.
And also, like, this is a good like offensive system for like these types of players. Like, these guys are 0.5 players that we're all talking about. So like it's a good system for them to showcase what they can do. So to your point, Kevin, one guy we haven't talked about is the center, Jake. What's his name? Jake Stevens.
Jake Stevens.
He's interesting to me in this way. Like, real shooter, real size, 7'10" wingspan, that's shocking. And like he's a real 7-footer.
He's a 7'10" wingspan?
Yeah, 7'10" wingspan.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So like to me,
and for somebody with a 7'10" wingspan, like you expect the 3-point shot to look kind of wonky just because he's got, they're almost 8-foot arms, and it's just like this real tight, fast motion, and it's like, really?
Like 39% on 580 attempts over his
and a real shooter. And like overall just a good offensive player. Defense is obviously the problem. But I just want to bring him up because I'm reminded of Luke Cornett was a bad defender until he wasn't, and so like I got a little eye up, and like Luke Cornett broke out like last year at 29, 30, older player. Like it took him years to figure it out, but when you're that big and you're that skilled, if you just know how to position yourself defensively, you can be a good rim protector. And with a 7'10" wingspan and at 7 feet tall, there's no reason why he can't be a good rim protector. It's all about positioning. So it'll be interesting to see him in this environment, how he looks defensively, because offensively, he's going to really help this team. Like we haven't talked about him a lot, but like he's a real shooter. He's going to help Kobe. He's in the Porzingis role. He's going to be playing like Porzingis for what the Hawks are envisioning Porzingis to be. So it's a good setting for him. I'll be interested to see how he looks. I think he has a chance to make the team, but I don't think they're going to promise him anything. He might be somebody. If he shows out, they might have to sign him, but we'll see if he does that. But like again, 7'10" wingspan, and he's like well over 260 plus pounds. Like is a big dude. So just somebody to keep your eyes out on. Like, how does the defense what does the defense look like? How do they also insulate him defensively? Because it could be a preview of how they're going to insulate Porzingis defensively. So just something, if you're a Hawks fan, to be aware of, less even about the player and more about the role and the archetype of what he is and what he looks like on the floor. Just be aware of this is probably what the Hawks are going to try to do with Porzingis on both ends of the floor. So just something to keep in the back of your guys' minds.
Right, that's a good shout. I forgot about him looking at the roster. He has a career 6% block percentage, but I will say his comp, like he was in the Southern Conference on the worst team in the league for 4 years. So not the best comp, but he did play. I remember him for Charlotte last year. He wasn't bad at all. Like he was like a serviceable big, picking and popping, was a presence at the rim. So I think the fact you can get a guy like Kristaps a good example.
He had a strong close to his season in Europe. He played in Europe last year. He played roughly about 28 games total, but it was split between two teams. His second team, he played a lot and he was decent. The biggest issue with him looks like to be fouling, just in general, heavy fouler, because he's out of position. And so like it's like, what can the Hawks do for him to become a better positional defender? Because once he becomes that, he's going to become a good rim protector. Like it's just math at that point. When you have that, when you're that big, like it's literally a math thing where it's like guys can't shoot over the top of that level of size. So somebody to be aware of just on the team, just more of a Porzingis sort of preview. He's not nearly the basketball player Porzingis is. I'm just saying what they're
going to hide him defensively in the same ways.
Yes. Exactly.
And he still has strengths defensively too. Like Porzingis has strengths defensively, but he has weaknesses too. So it's like you're trying to set up the game to play to his strengths and not to his weaknesses. And so that's what you want to see if the Hawks can do that for Stevens in this setting.
Yeah. Great points. I definitely want to end with 3 questions that we'll go around and give our answers to. So the first thing is, who do you think will be the Hawks Summer League MVP? The second thing is, who will be the biggest terrorist for the Hawks? Because I think all fans of like summer league teams with young guys, there's always an older guy who's trying to, respectfully try to gun for a contract, which is fine. But I'm not mad at that. But I know there will be some, may cause some frustration for Hawks fans. And then number 3, who do you think will get the 2-way contract? So whichever one y'all wants to go first. I can go first if y'all aren't ready.
Go ahead, David. Do you remember the terrorist last year? I forgot his name. He was a good guy though, like by all accounts. But I know exactly that you said terrorist brought memories.
Oh, who was that?
You were talking about.
And I gotta bring up the roster.
Was he a problem child last year in that summer league team when Reese Chase is wide open and homie going after it on offense? I'm like, what are we doing?
It might have been Jordan Bowden, but I think I need to see his face. It doesn't sound right.
He was a big forward, power forward, center type.
Was it on Gendo?
He went to like a super smart school too.
Trying to look at these.
Yeah. Oh, it's the last one. Baker.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Rob Baker was a terror. Yeah, he was bad. He was bad.
Loved it. He was a great guy.
He was like a late addition. He's not on the roster that I'm looking at. Yeah.
No, he was a great guy though. But yeah, no, he was. That was trouble. So MVP. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal it, but I'll just go ahead. MVP probably Asa Newell because he's probably going to play 4 out of the 5 games, and he's going to put the numbers up. This is a great environment for him. Terrorist. Probably Jake Stevens, honestly, defensively. Like, I think people are going to be mad about how bad he is on defense. It could sneakily be Toppin as well. Toppin, sometimes it kind of feels like he thinks he's better than he is, but I get it. He is a talented offensive player. So it's those 2 guys. And the last 2-way spot is interesting just because I honestly think they still have 2 open spots available. I know they signed Toppin to the 2-way, but they can easily just waive him. Like, he's not in a position of strength right now. The only 2-way spot they have is NJ. So that's the only real. So the last 2 ones, probably Nico and Kobe, if I were to guess. If based on like merit, it'd be those 2 guys. But it honestly could be 2 guys who were not on this G League. I mean, on the summer league roster. Like, honestly, like I think. Ansi is clear. The fact that he's not like going all in to fill out these last 3 roster spots available, and that he's kind of keeping his options open here with the 2 ways, where because you see other teams, they picking guys up 2 ways immediately. The Hawks didn't do that except for 1 guy, and so like to me, I think he's keeping his options open of what he wants to do. So we'll see. We'll see with who they pick, but I think it's probably going to be either Kobe and Nico or outside the organization more. And I put more stock on being outside the org for those last 2-way spots.
Maybe I'm just echoing down the line here. Well, maybe not. Okay, so MVP Asa, I just feel like they've set up Asa Newell to be the showcase. Like, everything that they've done with the roster around him kind of seems like they're trying to do the right things to showcase a young big who doesn't necessarily have his adult body yet. So for the terrorist, I think I'm not even necessarily picking on the player. It's just like a certain level of desperation. So maybe like Lamont Butler or Davon Smith, these guys, they're just on the cusp and they feel like the dream is slipping away. It's hard. That they don't necessarily have you in the long-term plans, but you got the eyeballs in the arena watching you. And so, I think it's just an easy opportunity to break the script a little bit and try to say, hey, this is what I can do. And then for the 2-way, it's interesting. Like, Djurisic is such a strange case. Like, I'm still a little bit shook by I signed a College Park contract to just come over here and play in the G League last year. Like, that was just so uncanny. Like, you just don't see a lot of players do that. I guess maybe you see some You used to
Well,
see it with like G League Ignite, and so maybe
yeah,
this was just something kind of akin to that with G League Ignite not there anymore. But that kind of threw me. But I would just say Kobe. Like if I just had to guess, like if it stays with Toppin and Njai, and again, like Tyler, I think Njai is a lock. But because I don't think he would have just left and come
yeah,
over for summer
exactly.
league. I think he had to get some kind of commitment to leave the situation he was in and come over here. So
Right.
I think he's a 2-way lock. I think it might be Djurisic, it might be Toppin, but then for everybody else, I think Kobe probably has a leg up on everyone as far as that third 2-way.
Makes sense to me. I think from my perspective, I'm gonna zag a little bit. I think that while Asa will probably have the production, I think that there's a chance that um like Lamont Butler is like really good for us. I mean, Lamont Butler or Adam Flagler, like those two guys would probably be like, I think they could be really, really big for us because they're gonna step one of those two is gonna step into the Kobe role. And whichever one does, then I think they could be really productive. And I think that Asa will have the numbers, but not necessarily like I don't know, like the
Impact.
pop. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be very quiet what he's doing, but like people are gonna see has he tween pools, whatever it may be. Um, Terrorists, I think that I was looking at some of the guys' numbers, like Dwight Murray Jr. I know he played for College Park last year. He shot 39% from the floor, took a lot of shots. His college numbers, high usage, low efficiency. He'll probably irritate some people. I could see him looking off some guys and getting into his bag. Pretty much any of the combo guards on the roster will probably. Now Dwight does have a really good high. He passed the ball really well though at College Park, but I do think like between Dwight and Davion, like those combo guards are usually the types that are the culprits. And then for the two ways, I agree that Eli's probably one of the two ways. I think that this organization has. I would imagine that when you trade up for a guy, even though it is in the second round, they give up cash. We know how Tony feels about cash, so I would imagine they have some sort of investment into Nikola. You know what I mean? Like that would make sense to me. I don't know. So I would imagine they would try to retain him on a two way, or maybe against your point, maybe on the standard contract. And I would agree that Kobe Johnson is probably the guy that fills out that two way contract. But fellas, appreciate y'all so much. We real sicko territories. Lots of time on guys that may or may not even crack the floor in the
Yeah.
first couple of games. But this is what this podcast is here for, and this is what you guys do best. So I appreciate both of you so much, and please let the folks know where to find you.
Yeah. Tyler Jones, Anansi 2x4 on Twitter or BlueSky. Sorry, I'm phasing out of X except for everyone. I like to retweet stuff. I'm about to retweet a lot of Cooper's flag slander in a second, so I just be forewarned, people. But yeah, you can find me on BlueSky on Nazi2x4. I'm not really talking about much though. There's not much other than Summer League because that's what's going on right now. So you can follow me there. And then ATL 29. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a podcast as soon as the first Summer League game, a couple Summer League games are done. We're gonna be talking about it, talking about how these guys look, what to look for, what they need to improve on, et cetera, and then also sometimes on Locked On Hawks. I'll probably be on Brad's podcast. Sorry, Kevin. A couple more times throughout the summer, so look out for that as well.
Yeah, and I don't have a whole lot to add. I write for Hawks.com sometimes. I have a pretty good schedule there. Try to get some content up there, so I'll have some stuff there at some point here. Hopefully during the summer league too.
Sounds good. Appreciate y'all one more time. Hope you all enjoyed the episode. Make sure you follow all their social media. It'll be in the description. And see you in the next one.